Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Wolverine Studios Developer Dynasty. Tonight we are talking Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2021. As always, we have our game's lead developer and creator, Brooks, with us. Say hi, Brooks.
Hello, guys.
And we are very excited. We have some cool new things to talk about this week. Before we get started, though, as always, I want to thank our subscribers to the channel. And if you subscribe, that does help us out, and it provides some support for us in this endeavor here. I also want to thank all of our followers. We have 3 new followers today. So thank you, guys. I hope that you have the notifications enabled so that when we go live, and you're able to join us. We've been doing this every Friday night for a month now for Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2021. This is our 4th episode, and we're really excited with how the game is coming along. If you have any questions at all or any topics you want to talk about over the course of this 30-minute stream, just throw them in the chat box. That's why we're doing this, primarily to get your feedback and show you some things that we're working on and things that we hope that you like, and see what changes you want to see. So the first one that I was really excited to see come over is something that's been talked about for a couple of weeks in the stream here, and that is performance grades. So performance grades is something that was debuted in the college game last year, and we brought it over to the pro game. And what you can do now is we ask people wanted more feedback on how their players are playing. So if you will open the player card, you'll be able to see this performance report. So Brooks, why don't you talk a little bit real quick about what they're seeing with the performance report here?
Yeah, so their season performance will show up in the top there, and it's basically the same calculations as what we had in the college game. And then each individual game will have similar grades by the coaches. We'll have to go back and put on the forum or put little info icons for what affects each individual grade. I'm not going to go over all that now. To be honest, I'm not completely sure I have a grasp on all of the calculations, but we can certainly add more information there on what triggers those. But that's kind of the goal, is to show all of the individual game grades and the overall grades there, so you can see how all your players are doing. And it should be available for all positions as well. So fun stuff.
Cool. So we've already got some things coming in the chat box that we can address. Vanderselt, such a great idea to host these streams weekly and engage with us and your followers, customers. I have many questions from the CSFL community for the stream today. I don't want to block the chat for everyone else, but here are the topics we have. Questions for an order of priority. Hopefully we can get through a few today. Let's see. Wow, there is a whole list there from the CSFL, which we really appreciate. We love the CSFL. I love how hard they work on Twitter, posting things out. They're always retweeting us. So CSFL, we love you guys. Keep up the great work there, and we'll try to answer some of your questions. Brooks, there's a couple of them. Can you speak to... there's something, stacking player tags, enhancement, 4th down logic. So let's talk about 4th down logic, because that was one of the things that we had mentioned between us this week that was been worked on under the hood. So why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so the 4th down logic is interesting. I actually went in and tuned the engine a little bit recently this week to make sure that we're falling in line with NFL norms. And oddly enough, either I've tuned it in the past or it's just fallen in line magically due to the way the engine works. But it's actually in line with what NFL norms look like. It is it's going to be available on the statistical screen, so you'll be able to see 3rd and 4th down conversions. But yeah, at this point, I'm not sure how much more work I'm going to do on fourth down logic, since it seems to be a reasonable amount for what the game is supposed to be handling. It is tied to coaching. The coach aggressiveness will make certain teams go for it a little bit more and in certain scenarios. But as far as I'm aware, it should be working correctly. That doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect, and we'll obviously go back to it if we need to. But I think it's in line now. Since you mentioned the stacking player tags, the goal is to make it where you can add multiple tags on top of players. I think the issue before was that once the game detected that a certain player was legendary, it would give them the legendary tag, and that would take away whatever their current tag was. And the community pointed out that they'd like to preserve all of the tags that the players got. So right now we just have the one listed on the screen, but behind the scenes we're updating that so that you'll be able to add more than one. Or the players can develop more than one. It kind of adds a little bit of immersion to them. It makes for some unique combinations of traits on players. So that will be in there when we update the screens. The penalty logic, I think I tweaked that in college, and I'll have to port that over to the pros to make better decisions on when to go for things or when to decline the penalties and when to accept them and some of that. But it's already been done in a college game, and I'll just move that over. Training, I'm not. Oh, I think you mean trading compensatory draft picks. I don't have any plans on expanding the draft pick system right now. We can add it to the list, but we're probably going to run out of time before I can look at that. So I'm looking at these other questions going forward on your own 30-yard line. Yeah, I mean, all of these different scenarios. The easiest way is to post it on the forum and join our early access period so that you can help us test these various scenarios that either I'm missing during my testing or they just need to be improved. We certainly want to make the engine as good as we can get it, and we're constantly tweaking it. But obviously, folks are finding more scenarios that need some more work. So we're happy to have all the help we can get to identify those, and I can make improvements in the engine. And the penalties in the game been refined. So the penalty system needs a little bit of work. I need to tie the penalties themselves to particular positions, because you're right. Right now, the way the logic works is it detects whether it's a pre-snap penalty or an after-snap penalty, and then kind of randomly selects one of the penalties depending on run versus pass, which can lead to some odd scenarios where the wrong player or an incorrect player gets a penalty that doesn't make any sense. So I can add it to the list. I hopefully I have time to tweak that for 21, because you're right, it needs to be improved. Yeah, too many men in the field from the QB. Yeah, I mean there's some odd ones in there, and we definitely need to work on that system. The last version of the game we did go through, or maybe I guess it was college, where I actually put rates of penalties in there and organized them by occurrence in the true game, so that you get realistic numbers of different penalties. But again, we just need to continue to improve that going forward.
Okay, so one of the new things that Brooks put in this week, as I'm going to pull up the 2D screen here for you guys to take a look at. Still, this is by far from complete, but the one thing that he added here this week that I thought there's a couple of things, but one particularly interesting was the ability to have a play-by-play sort of thing that you see popping up on the screen here. It won't stay here or look like this in its final form, but since I'm kind of taking on the UI aspect of things as I figure out how I want to rearrange this screen, do you guys prefer a play-by-play that looks like this, where it kind of shows you 2, 3, 4 things maybe for that particular play, or do you like it where you see one at a time and it goes, and that goes away and you see the next one as if it was, something like the announcer was saying, and that one thing at a time. So that's something that I would like for you guys to comment on, either here in the stream or on our forums or Facebook or Twitter or something like that, just so I kind of get a feel for how you want it displayed. It seems in the chat there's a couple of people who said they really like it how it looks right now. So if that's what people like, having the multiple lines, then that's how I'll work to build it in, because we want to make sure it's working the way that you guys want to see. And of course, we talked about some things last week that we want to do with the screen. If you have any suggestions yourself, feel free to throw them out there, and we'll talk them. But it looks like we got a lot of comments here in the stream saying that they like the multiple lines. So that's really good. That's really something positive that doing these streams brings about that sort of thing, because I can ask a question right now. We get instant input, and the people who are in these streams that yourselves are coming to watch this, you're getting the first say, and you're getting the ability to talk right with the people who are making the decisions and making the changes. So looks like a lot of votes for multiple lines. So I will keep that and figure out the best way to incorporate that into the play, so that you can kind of, I want to make it so you can watch both what's going on as well as follow the lines. So there's a question.
Go ahead. That one's a funny one, because the college game, we actually overlay the latest text on the bottom of the screen, so you can kind of see the commentary there. Mm-hmm. And I was having trouble making sure that it was all working, so I just lined it all up and run a running play-by-play of commentary that Asger worked really hard on, and it's coming out really well. I really like how it looks, and when I stacked them all up, it looks. I like it too. I like the way that it looks. I think it makes it's easier to see what happened on the play, because some of these things happen, bang bang kind of things. And as we add different commentary to the game and different positions doing different things, and missing tackles and those kinds of things, then we're going to want to be able to add a few more lines on there. So it's good feedback, and I'm glad it's happenstance I even did it that way, but I'm glad that it's got a positive feedback on it.
Just a happy accident, like Bob Ross says. That's one thing too I noticed in the play-by-play coming back there, that it gives you a lot of feedback about things that could be going on, like, wow, what a block by such and such. So that you see that a player made an important play on that that particular play that you wouldn't have noticed maybe just from watching the 2D guys move around. So I think that's a really good addition there. Question for you, Brooks, by Run Forest Run.
Yeah, he's asking about, I believe it's not necessarily a statistical issue that he's asking about here. He's asking about the display. There's an oddity with the way the 19 and 20 versions of the games came out, the way I drew the dots around the particular point on the field where they were at. So that if you were going one way, you only needed to touch the goal line, but when you were going the other way, you actually had to go significantly over the goal line. It's the way it appeared. And it wasn't really the case. The dot's the same either way. It's just whether the dot was in the center or whether the dot was in the upper left-hand pinned version of the box that we used to draw our 2D display. So the stats have always been right, but it's a display oddity that I believe I fixed, but we'll add it to the list just to make sure that in this new version of the 2D view that it hasn't come back on us.
Okay, one of the other things that just a minor thing that added in this week, I kind of fooled around with the standings page here a little bit and added the team icons. I think that makes it look a little bit better and a little bit more noticeable, a little bit easier to distinguish where the teams are. And Brooks has also started working on playoff structure on this weekly schedule screen here. He's got it organized by each round here for the games, which I think is a useful addition and helpful, and as well as having a bracket here that obviously work in process as always. But I think that's a cool addition too. You can kind of see the playoff bracketed format as well. Question from Coach.
Yeah, I had.
Oh, Coach BJ too. Can we have conference icons too at the top? Are we referencing the standings page, Coach? I'm assuming so. And if so, yeah, absolutely, we could put the conference logos up there. I'll make a note of that.
And more stuff from Vader. The fourth down logic. I haven't gotten too much into the AI of the field goal logic and stuff. It's we tune to get the stats to be basically pro game norms, and then we go in and alter the decisions based on that. And once they come in line, we oftentimes don't get enough feedback on individual decisions that are being made. So the more data you can give us on, hey, when we're on the 35, they're not doing what we want them to do, or when they're on the 40, or it only seems like it happens on the 42, or any data like that, feel free to join our Slack or join the forums and post that feedback either as part of First Access or just in general, so we can track it. Because once I know what particular and specific scenarios you guys are seeing that are less than optimal, the more I can tweak it to make it not happen as much. I will say that a lot of cases, it's just random number that's kicking in, but that can't be the excuse all the time. I mean, some of these things happen a lot more often than they're supposed to. But even if I get to 90%, 10% of the time or whatever, there's still going to be odd things that coaches do because that's kind of the way I want it. But there's enough feedback on some of these that we need to go back and turn that randomness down a little bit so that they're making better decisions overall.
Dermot, I definitely do not think that the Washington football team will be taking on the Washington Tanks as their as their team name. I don't think that will happen, but we like it. I thought it was a fun logo to use, so that's why we used it. One thing that I pulled up here that is not on the screen, but something that Brooks had talked to me about this week was some exports. So people had asked for some things being able to be exported from the game. So Brooks is working on that with some stats and things like that. Brooks, you want to kind of explain what they're going to be able to export here?
Yeah, the goal is, instead of having to cut and paste on these screens, the goal is to have a little button in the upper right hand corner, wherever Gary feels works the best, to have a little export button so that you'll be able to immediately save these screens directly to CSV files. It'll just export whatever data is on the screen right now. It's not going to do anything more than that at the moment. But if that works out well and the feedback is good, then we'll add that to more screens. I find it handy because as I'm doing my tuning and things, I like being able to get the data out of these screens and copy it over to Excel to do some further analysis. So that the goal is to go ahead and add that on there as kind of a way to help people get the data out of the game a little easier than trying to cut and paste a big table. I will leave the first access questions to you, Gary.
Yeah, we don't have the first access date yet. Believe me, we want to get it as soon as possible. Brooks is working tirelessly right now, every day to get this. I will tell you, from my experience last year in bringing Pro Basketball 2020 to this what's called the AU platform here that we're using, which makes the game look so phenomenal. It is a long process because we are not just able to reuse any of the screens that we had before, not able to just reuse how we were displaying things. It is built from the ground up. So this is a complete rebuild of the football game here that you're looking at. And it was not just, you can push a couple buttons and slap a new coat of paint on this thing. This is a total rebuild so that we can provide the best possible user experience for you. So it's I would love to be able to say, yes, this is the date, but we're just kind of, we're going as fast as we can. And as soon as we'll know when we're about a week away, I think, from when we've got everything in, everything's working to a point where it's ready to be tested and stuff like that. So we will definitely let everybody know the very minute that we decide when first access will begin. There was a couple questions from Coach here about play action being added and more formations to be added. Play action was added. Brooks, is there anything else that you're thinking about on those lines right now?
Not at the moment. I mean, well, I like the play action is in already. Motion is in already, at least in the play builder. We'll have to port over some more of the college code to get it to actually work in the engine itself. That's still on my list to do. There are some other strategy things that we're considering adding that I'd really like to get to, and I'm just not super comfortable bringing it up just yet because I want to make sure I have enough time to put it in. But so there will be some more announcements on some additional strategy and around game planning and play calling and some of those screens. The formations at this point, I think because we have motion and play action in, and because we are the wishbone is in, I don't think we're planning on adding any other formations. I'd rather work with the community to figure out how to do better custom plays and some additional shifting and things that we could add so that people can shift into different formations. Because to be honest, my personal opinion is we have too many formations as it is. And I don't like new people coming into the game and having all of these different depth charts that they have to fill out because it can be overwhelming for new players who don't necessarily know what all the different formations are and how they work. So if we could figure out how to set more base and then allow for shifting, I think that might bridge the gap so that the hardcore players can shift into the true formations and positions that they want, but they won't have to worry about so many depth charts and so many different configurations that they need to set up on their teams. Positional coaching staff, pound for pound. No, we toyed with that a few years ago. I think for now we're going to stick with the three coaches and the GM for now. It's more of a kind of a personal decision on my part that I'm still trying to keep these things a little manageable, and I didn't want people to have to be too overwhelmed with more than the 3 or 4 coaches that they have to deal with. It's something we can certainly look at in future versions. I think at one point we had like a trainer or even scouts at certain points where we had toyed with adding. But again, we started with this. We'll stick with this for 21, and then we'll reevaluate later. Vader's asking for a clear button on the formations. I'll have to look into that. I think what ends up happening now is if you were to actually clear it all out, then it would mark it as invalid, and the CPU would fill it all back in for you, which is probably not what you want either. So I'll have to look at how that works. Right now we have the copy to copy those packages around, so that might be a way if you created a a package that you liked, you'd be able to copy it across and then just tweak from there. But we could certainly look at how a clear button might work. So JD, 2002. During contract negotiations, will there be a suggestion box of some sort that tells you how much you should offer so you don't lowball or overpay for a player? Typically, when you negotiate, they have a player wish that shows up already, and that's pretty much what they're looking for. I'm sure that can be improved if we don't have that quite right. I know there have been some feedback from some other folks on our teams that have said sometimes the CPU will undervalue or overvalue, or the players will undervalue or overvalue their particular contracts, and they end up not signing with anybody. And so we definitely want to take another look at that and make sure that it works correctly. Coach BJ, special teams coordinator. Yeah, that falls in line with, they're important in real life. I'm not sure how much benefit that would give to a football sim game to have people have to hire all of those different kinds of folks, which is why we started with what we did. But again, I'll never say never. It's certainly something we can look at in the future, or as an advanced option for some leagues if we needed to. Vader's asking about Steam Workshop. I would love that. I think that's a fantastic aspect of Steam games in general, being able to go to the workshop and download assets and download mods and things like that. I have no idea how to do it. So I'm sure I could figure it out. I'm sure we could spend some time trying to do something like that. That would probably be something that we would look to do in between versions. After it's been released, after all the initial patches are done and everybody's happy with the release, then we could go back in and look at some of those more complicated aspects of Steam that we haven't delved into yet. But I think that'd be a fantastic idea.
One thing on the side of Steam, though, is that we have to keep in mind that that's just one of the outlets of the game. So we want to make sure that people who are buying from our website have access to everything as well, and sort of the same capabilities and same easy access to things. So that's something that we need to keep in mind in anything. And I haven't dealt with the Steam with anything out in Steam outside of actually getting our games on there to sell either. So that's something that nobody in our company has kind of talked about that yet, or really looked into much.
Here, we got a couple more minutes. Got a couple more questions. I think I can get them. So
right,
leaderboard for coach wins. I'll add it to the list. I don't think I have it in there, but it's something that we can do. We actually did add championships and some additional information to the coach form. So we are tracking some of the wins and championships. Making them clickable after they retire rather than disappearing them, that I'll have to work on. I can't commit to that for 21. It's because of the way that we handle the coaching pools. That one might actually be difficult, but we'll see what we can do on that. I'll add it to my list. A training system, we're not planning on updating the training system. Assigning them to schedules, letting them run through the year with a particular schedule, letting you change them to different schedules, applying the schedules on a week-to-week basis, and then also using them for training camps is the way we have it. And it's what we'll use in 21. It's certainly something we can look at in the future, though, if we need to. Custom colors for home and away dots. Right now, it picks up the team colors. I don't know if adding a configuration for that is something that Gary wants to look into, but we can add it to the list to evaluate. Kickers do not have dots. They just doesn't show that I think you want them to show up. So we can look at that. Currently, players no longer on teams are not removed until you delete in DD this schedule again. Has this been fixed so schedules do not constantly need to be rebuilt? You'll have to contact me offline on that one, Vader. I'm not sure what you're looking for there. If it's a bug, we'll fix it. If it's a new concept, we'll have to take a look at it. No, we will. Sorry. Oh, hi, Mark 24. We will not be putting this on Mac. One of the benefits of this new system that we're on is that it gets a little bit closer to a possibility in the future, but it won't be for 21. Oh, okay. So the training schedule screen is updated a little bit to make it easier to move players between schedules, if that's what Vader was talking about. So we can double check that, make sure when they leave, that they get assigned to the correct default schedule when they join a new team. But the old screen, the way that we did it, moving them between boxes and stuff, has been updated to this one, which hopefully is a little bit easier to work with. I think that's it, Gary.
Cool. I want to thank everybody. This is a great chat. We had so many good questions and things to talk about, and we'll have a full page of notes after we review all the comments. And it's really helpful, I think, for us to take just this half hour once a week and get with you guys. We have a great turnout for this stream every week. The football group really shows out strong every week. The basketball guys on Tuesday night have been stepping up their game a little bit lately. They've been showing out more, but this football group is the strongest one by far for our stream. So I appreciate you guys coming here. I appreciate Brooks taking some time out of his coding schedule to come in here and answer some questions and get some feedback. And I think everybody who has followed us, and is especially our subscribers to the channel, whether it's their free Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime subs that you get every month, or subscribing out of their own pocket. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the support you give to us by purchasing our games, by following us on social, interacting with us in all our different social channels. And I really thank you for coming out tonight. We will end it there, and have a great weekend, everybody. And we will see you next week with some more improvements as we get closer to the first access release, the beta portion, and get this game, Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2021, in your hands as soon as possible. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.